review. Has the boundary review taken?
Of course, it can't take place because we don't have an
we don't
IEBC.
have
That's what I'm
properly
saying.
constituted IEBC.
And I think we're 5 or 6 years, 10 years too late. Wasn't it the last one that was done several years ago?
To have happened, it's supposed to happen every 10 years. So the next one was supposed to have happened in 2023.
Right, 2 years later.
2022, actually.
And you know that affects a lot, right? Because if you're not reviewing the boundaries, if populations have grown, if resourcing isn't enough, it's all connected. Right. It's all connected, and it does come back to vigilance.
As we speak, there's constituencies in limbo because their member of parliament passed on, went to do this and that, and there's...
Or their member of parliament donated themselves to the national executive.
Yes, that's what I meant. Yes, they donated themselves to go to a higher calling, right?
As a patriot.
Na wakaachwa, na sasa there's no by-election that has happened as a result, and you're just there living in limbo. Who do you go to with your CDF problems? There's no deputy MP. There is no, right? And they're in limbo because we don't have a properly constituted IEBC.
We don't want to use this hour necessarily to complain, and maybe I'll throw it back to Eric and Mariam, is what do we mean when we talk about citizen vigilance? What are the 1, 2, 3 ways that we need to continue to be vigilant, even on something like NCA? Literally moments ago, we've just ended the interview, but the vigilance, which I'm seeing a lot of people carrying, is saying, hey, nope, my building was marked and nothing has happened. Who do I need to call? So I do want to applaud Kenyans for kind of having that spirit of accountability. Really, I think it really escalated, obviously, in June 2024. But what is it that we're missing when it comes to citizen vigilance? Is it us? Is it the state? What happens? What do we need to do?
Information.
Oh, you've talked about that quite a bit.
Yeah. My people perish
for lack of
knowledge. As long as we don't have information, as long as we are not engaging with information on a regular basis, then we have those gaps, right? We have the gaps because we don't understand the process. So when something comes in the middle of that process, then we're not able to call it out and say, this is not how it's supposed to happen. We do not then keep track of what should have happened. Let's talk about the IEBC, for instance, all right? What is the procedure for constituting the IEBC? The procedure is contained in the IEBC Act, which says that there is a selection panel. And that selection panel shall comprise of several members who shall come from various interests represented here. Then once that panel is empaneled, it starts the work of advertising and conducting interviews and this and the other. This current one is led by Dr. Nelson Makanda. And yesterday they were at Eneshipai in Nakuru, and they said by April 25th, you should have your new IEBC.
April 25th.
April 25th, you should have the new IEBC. He says they have received 339 applications for the 7 positions advertised, including that of the IEBC chairperson. The panel will deliver on its mandate of giving Kenyans the chairperson and members of the IEBC by April 25th. Most of the applications were made online. The names of applicants and the interview schedule of candidates will be published in the print media, the Kenya Gazette, and the Parliamentary Service Commission website. So here's where the information comes in, okay? We had a lot of hue and cry and push for the empanelment of the selection panel.
Right.
It came out and it then advertised for this position. How many of us knew about the advertisement for the position? How many wanted to apply? Well, clearly, many. 339 people applied for 7 positions, but not as many. The previous one, there I think over 800 people had applied for the 3 positions of IEBC that now ended up being filled by Kina Cherera and the others, okay? Of these 339, do we know the next steps? Do we know, so when do these interviews begin? What are we looking out for? What role do we as citizens have to play in this selection process? Is this that panel now will just do its job and then publish the shortlisted candidates and then create a list? And what happens? How do those people become commissioners? What are those next steps? Do we know? Because they're basics. It's an interview process, and then there's a short list, and then present a list of these people to the president, and then these people, the president informs Parliament that these are the nominees. Parliament does the vetting, and then Parliament passes or rejects these people. They are appointed. In that journey, what role are we playing? And if we are not aware of the process and the steps, and then now starting to put timelines. So by this time, this happens. By this time, this happens. By this time, this happens. What do we expect? If there are 339 rogue people who have applied for this position, we shall end up with 9 rogue people as commissioners of IEBC.
And what does that mean for our elections? What does it mean for our electoral process?
I think when you live in Gotham, you have to be the vigilante, right? And we live in Gotham right now. You would love to think of it very differently, but Nairobi is a city of people who are trying to survive, trying to make it work. Kenya, a country of people who are trying to make it work, trying to make this and this work. But there are forces that are just always working behind, and there's madmen running around the streets, and they're shifting the goalposts whenever you try and reach it. So then, if I am the vigilante, I am the vigilant citizen, am I purposely being kept from doing my work? I want to be able to follow the IEBC panelists, the IEBC interviews. I want to be able to ask when that's happening. I want to even be able to have a look at their CVs and see what their qualifications are for this job. It's of public interest to me. I want to see their track record. I want to see what the EACC has to say. But there's a small problem in that I do not have a job, and that is my current biggest worry. I am day and night working towards making sure that I have something to eat, I have rent, I have my basics sorted out, right?
Yeah.
So
maybe the intentions.
Intention, 100% there. I want to be a vigilante, but I am not able to because there are systematic issues that are keeping me from it. So then how am I a vigilant citizen when all this is happening? And I would if everything was Gucci fantastic, I would be there. I would be a member of a political party, actively so. I would be maybe running for office. I would be questioning my area MP at every baraza. I would be watching Fixing the Nation 6 to 10 every day because I know that there's some questions I need to ask and making phone calls, but
I don't have the bandwidth.
But what? You don't have the bandwidth
to be a vigilante.
To be a vigilante and
to
look
ends
for
meet.
this week's food, this month's rent, where the kids are going to school, how that's going to happen.
As Eric asks you why, because now
you can see. You can see.
I can see. Yeah, he's like why, but people have till February 15th to send applications. By the way, you still have a few days. According to the vice chairperson, Linda Kilome, said the recruitment would be fair, transparent, impartial. Names will be submitted. The interviews shortlisting will happen. The names will be submitted to the National Assembly for approval within 7 days. The team invited applications for the position of IEBC chairperson and 6 commissioners early this month. Those interested have up to February 15th to send their applications. In a notice, Dr. Nelson Makanda outlined the requirements applications must meet. Of course, he's pictured in the 6th page of the Daily Nation, interacting with Chief Justice Martha Koome moments after he took oath of office on January 27th. He, of course, is going to head the team tasked with recruitment. So February 15th, if we are trying to be vigilant, if we are not afraid to face what we think we can face in some of these systems, can we apply?
Until Saturday.
You have until Saturday.
Yeah.
You have until Saturday. So you need
apply to be an IEBC commissioner.
And so if you think you're the person for the job, try your best. Now you know that it's the 6th page of the Nation. I don't know how loud it is in terms of communication, much I think to what Eric talks about communication, but there it is. It's there. It's an opportunity to say, I want to be an active citizen. I want to apply. I have the credentials. I have the intentions and good intentions for the country. So please apply.
Okay, Janet, I have the qualifications. I have the best intentions for this country. I believe I'm the right person for the job. I also know that Rosalind Akombe now cannot come back to Kenya. I know of IEBC commissioners ICT heads at the IEBC who turned up dead, Chris Msando, for example. I know of a group of 3 that had to go this way and another group of 3 that had to go that way, and it caused a big rift, and now there's, who is with government, who is without, who support, there's so much murkiness that I think a lot of people of good integrity, quote unquote, and good character would just stay away from the application process, because what am I going to do to fix a system that has people living in the United States living basically in exile?
I'll apply. I'll try my best. I know. That's why I say the moment we started this segment, I said, and it's not supposed to sound discouraging or mean,
right.
IEBC is set up to fail. It's unfortunate. It is. The way it's set up, the manner in which everything that you've described has happened, it's almost like it is set up to fail. And the idea is that it's weak. and is not a body that is supposed to be able to give us a credible electoral process, credible results. Because I don't know that it's down to the commissioners. It might be unfair to say that. Maybe in some cases it is. Right. A lot of the cases, I think hands are tied. I think threats are made. I think corruption is happening. I think bribes are made. I think it is set up to fail.
All because citizens are not involved in this. All because citizens have walked out of the room and left the hyena with the meat.
But they did not know there were going to be hyenas. The 800 who applied, the 300...
It's not the people. The hyenas here are the political players.
Absolutely.
Who is it that, controls this independence or lack of the IEBC and the other? It's the political players, the political actors. And if we are not vigilant, then that allows the political players to come and start controlling the IEBC. The political players to actually determine who sits in that IEBC. The political players to have already their shortlist and their own preferred candidates who to campaign. But if we are vigilant, we are saying these are the people who applied. Let's look at them. Let's look at their, their credentials. Let's look at their suitability. Let's ask on the integrity score, how high do they score? All those questions. If we are also conducting our own vetting of candidates as they are going through the interview process, and then we see, by many people just on popular polling are saying that Janet came out strong, Janet had credentials, Janet demonstrated passion, and if you look at Janet's background, Janet meets the qualifications, Janet is a person of integrity, Janet is a person who stands her ground, Janet, all those things, then the public says, we think, hey, Janet should be.
Then let's speak to Janet. She'll wear her power suit and walk into the hyena's den.
If the
go ahead.
thugs, let me just call them thugs, see that enyewe our person Eric tulikuwa tumemweka hapo, lakini the people seem to have said Eric is just a corrupt person, does not deserve to be anywhere near here. Eric has questions of integrity. Our guy atakubaliwa na watu.
Yeah.
Right? They will back off. And Eric. Janet will get into office. Janet will get into office. Once Janet is in office, we continue. So now, Janet, Eric, you're in that office. This is what we expect.
This is wishful thinking.
This is just expectation.
It's wishful thinking. If it is Janet versus
wishful
Eric,
thinking.
And she's, she stood out, fantastic candidate, when to Awatu, for example. What will happen is that this goes to Parliament for vetting, etc., nini, and for some reason, her name will be struck down, and yours will be like, even though he fails basic integrity tests and his integrity score is huku chini, for some reason, this is our choice. That's the world we live in.
And that's a word he's trying to interrogate.
It is not the world we live in, Mariam. And
let
me remind you, did we or did we not see the finance bill of last year collapse?
We did, but not because of the people in Parliament.
It is because of the citizens.
Right.
That's exactly what I'm saying. The citizens realized out there, they were like, at what's happening in that room, they got into the room. The citizens got into the room and found these parliamentarians saying, okay, sasa hata tumesikiza citizens, wacha tufanye hivi, we shall tweak this, we shall tweak the other. People said, no. Rarua hiyo kitu. Rarua hiyo kitu.
He said reject.
Yeah.
Rarua hiyo kitu.
Fair.
The citizens were in the room, finance bill was torched. Waliwasha karatasi hivi na wakachoma. Same thing. Citizens enter the room and say, Janet has come out as the strongest candidate. And we sit in that room like this.
Waiting for them to try and pitisha Eric.
Yes. And they all know, they can see that the public is watching and seeing whether Eric, the thug and vagabond and delinquent and everything, is the one that they are going to pick instead of Janet.
Samuel Wanje says something similar, I think, to what Eric might be trying to say on YouTube. He says on IEBC, we should be more focused. Actually, he's saying should we be more focused on the people or personalities who will be selected, the 7, or should we zoom in on the electoral system, which I believe is managed by the Secretariat? He goes on to give an example in the comments, but maybe we'll start with that first one. I think it's a bit of both, and I think the system informs the personalities, and then the personalities inform the electoral process. And I hear what Eric is saying. I do. I hear actually what both of you are saying, because you're saying, if only In a perfect world, in a
Right.
perfect Kenya, he's saying we have the opportunity to do that. I'm saying we do. Can we?
Okay.
The reject the finance bill was a massive win for the people of Kenya in terms of awakening the vigilance. I don't want to be a pessimist and say how many other wins can we count, quote unquote. How many other opportunities can we have to win that way? First of all, it took the entire country
Right.
coming together
Right.
collectively and saying we reject. Maybe what he's saying is we need to have that same energy when it comes to things like IEBC. I actually think for IEBC, guys, it stresses me because this is what is going to inform who is going to lead us, how things are going to be carried out. If we fumble there,
Right. It is very.
I think it needs that same level of vigilance and energy and just a clarion call to say we want this in our favor. What does that look like?
I don't dispute that
However.
at all. However, even with reject finance bill, they still found every sneaky way to bring back so many of the contentious things that we said that initially got people really worked up. Because before we even got to reject finance bill, it was you're doing what? You're increasing what? Pads? No. Though it was specific issues, right? But no one said delete clause. Hadi kafika, now we have to throw the whole thing out and start afresh. With IEBC, it'll be the exact same thing of, okay, we've kept our eyes on the ball. Eric the Thug is not getting in, not on our watch. We're behind Janet. Until it gets back to, for example, either presidential ascension or something of the sort, and then we're thrown back, and it's a back and forth, and then we lose momentum. Because when it was Eric versus Janet, we were clear. We were like, we don't want Eric, we want Janet. And we were like, fine, we're moving forward. But then when they draw it out for 3 months, 6 months, we're back to vetting. We've thrown another candidate. We've done another. We'll lose the momentum. And then they'll sneakily get their guy in because we'll be so close to an election that now we can't afford to not have an IEBC. And we're like, okay.
Yeah.
Bas, wacha Eric aingie tu, tukwe tu na mtu hapo, histori ishe.
Already by account of how much it's been delayed, for me, that's already a sign.
They, you know,
Eric is like, I've heard you.
they count on that. They count on
Sisi kuchoka.
Wakenya ni wale. Kelele siku tatu. Moto ya magazeti. You know, just moto ya karatasi. If you put newspapers together or just pieces of paper together and you light a fire, how long will that fire last?
A few seconds. That's true.
They say that Wakenya ni moto ya makaratasi. Inawaka sahi, inaisha. They count on you being moto ya makaratasi. And what we are saying about citizen vigilance, it's no. Tusikue moto ya karatasi. Tukue moto ya ile maka proper. Hybrid maka.
Premium,
Yeah.
Maka premium.
Charcoal.
Premium charcoal.
That
brand.
lasts. Okay?
Yes.
And we just keep ourselves at it. And I hear you in terms of, can everybody wake up and this is what they're doing? It doesn't have to be that. Just everybody just needs to have the knowledge. All right? And that's the role that we in the media have, to just keep having this proper knowledge out there, not just bringing politicians to come and talk there, spewing their nonsense at harambes and funerals, but just having the proper knowledge. This is what's happening. Communities can establish their own ways of checks and balances. There are people in communities who are willing to dedicate their time to actually doing this, right? If communities support, and they're already there, we have people. Go to any community, you will find a guy like the one we had the other day here, who is just championing for the end of at least this addiction to gambling being addressed. We have people who, this is what they are doing. They are willing to dedicate their time, support those people, and let them come back to you and say, okay, you guys, this is how far we've gone, this is what's happening. Just let them be your sources of information. And you keep empowering them. And all of us are together now putting this in check. Where we are at right now, I have a problem, for example, with just this entire selection panel and the way it was composed. There was a game that was played by Parliament in how do we constitute this, who are the members of this particular selection panel. And let me just tell you who sits in the selection panel, how they got here.
Okay.
The law, the IEBC Act of 2024, that was passed now, you know, after that whole, mandamano, let's have talks, let's go to Bomas, let's go to Nini. The talks were called what? Those ones between opposition and government, I'll remember. The law says that the selection panel shall consist of, now, write this down, put the number. 2 people nominated by the Parliamentary Service Commission
Anza tena.
Two
This is
people.
what? This is... Go back
The
to
selection
beginning.
panel.
We're taking notes. Okay, selection
Yes.
panel.
This is the selection panel. These guys who are led by Dr. Nelson Makanda. Okay? How did they come into office? Two people are nominated by the Parliamentary Service Commission, representing the majority party coalition and the minority party.
Okay.
So that's one minority, one majority from the Parliamentary Service Commission. 3 people nominated by the Political Parties Liaison Committee.
Just wait. Political Party Liaisons Committee.
Yes. This is the one that had now, that whole delay it was at the Political Parties Liaison Committee. Those 3 are this way. Right? 3. Now, A. 1 from the party other than a parliamentary party or coalition of parties.
From a party?
A party other than a parliamentary party or coalition of parties.
Okay.
So a party that does not have a member in parliament.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's say NAC Kenya does not have a member in parliament. Okay. So is NAC Kenya one of those that can participate? And so on and so forth. 1 from a parliamentary party or coalition of parties forming the national government. Okay. So 1 from a parliamentary party or coalition of parties forming the national government. That is a parliamentary party or a coalition of parties either from Azimio or Kenya Kwanza. No. It's only forming the national government. That can only be from Kenya Kwanza. So Kenya Kwanza has another person. So how many people does Kenya Kwanza have now so far?
That has 1, 2...
One majority.
1 majority.
1 from...
Coalition parties.
Kenya Kwanza
So
kana
they
watu
go-
ngapi?
Wawili.
1 from a parliamentary party or coalition of parties not forming the national government. That is now the minority again, the other side.
Now they also have 2.
Okay. 1 person from LSK, that is there. That now is the other. You see, we had that number 1.
Yes, okay. So LSK
nominee 1.
Okay.
ISPAC, Institute of Certified Public Accountants, 1. 2 from Interreligious Council of Kenya.
Okay.
Okay. That's how they. Those are how many? Count.
1,
So
2,
we've
3,
got
4,
5,
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the selection panel. Now, look at that and tell me, from this selection panel, how many do politicians nominate? Just count. We said 2 from the parliamentary party.
2, 5. That's already 5.
3 from the inter blah, 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 blah.
Right.
That's 5. Okay?
6. Yes?
I think it's 5.
No,
5.
it's
It's
5.
5. It's 5. Yeah.
Out of the total of?
9.
9.
Majority of the selection panel is determined by the players. So this is Arsenal Man U selecting the referee.
And even when it's not the political party themselves, when you tell me 2 interreligious council nominees,
Yeah, but
I wanna-
let's even say that could
right.
be independent. Let's just
Okay.
say that, you know,
For argument's
NCCK
sake.
and
Yeah.
the Islamic Council of Kenya and the Council of Hindu. Let's say that those ones can actually just sit down and select
independently. Okay, we still have 5 out
the
of
2
9
people.
from
So
coming from...
why is it that the candidate has a say on who the referee is? That already for me is
Because it is set up to fail.
that already
It is
for
not
me
set
is an
up
issue.
for us. It is set up so that people can run. How was this
Be that as it
designed?
may.
How was this designed? Because sometimes it comes down to interrogating
Right.
this setup.
Right. Because
What
you
would it
can
have
tell
looked like? In a
it's
perfect
our-
world, what does this look like?
Sorry, before we get to the perfect world, how was it designed? It's our love for nusumkate, broad-basedism, na everyone must be at the table to feel everyone here being political parties. Lazima Azimio ikue, na Kenya Kwanza ikue. Lazima Raila, Chungwa ikue, ilikuwa Chungwa versus Banana, na Banana ikue. Like, that's how we think of everything.
The table is for a select few.
Right? And those select few are from political parties, etc. And that's exactly the thinking behind you choosing your own referee.
Yeah.
Now, to the question of a perfect world.
Yes.
My
proposals.
And I've
LSK
had this
back
argument
to
with
back up.
politicians, and some of them even respected politicians who take me back to 97. There was a inter-parliamentary parties group, IPG, after people had said, no, Moi is selecting the IEBC by himself. No, he should also allow us to get into the room. And they came up with IPBG so that they can select the Kivuitu Commission. My issue is the Constitution gives the sovereign power to the people, you and I. And then it says that we shall exercise that power
Right.
either directly or through our
elected
representatives.
Yeah.
It is us who are delegating that power. So an election is a very sacrosanct process where we are delegating our sovereignty to our elected leaders. So the most important person in an election is me, the citizen, me, the voter. Senor. And for me to have trust and integrity of this process, I ought to be the one who chooses the referee. Should I not?
This is what I'm saying. So what would the selection panel look like?
If that was the case, then the majority would be coming from institutions that represent interests of the public.
Right.
The argument is that even political parties represent interests of the party, of the public, but political parties are not. Political parties are competitors in this. Political parties are competing for me to delegate my sovereignty to them and their elected and their candidates.
So then, Eric, the question would be, which institutions do you feel have the interests of the public that could potentially nominate 5 out of 9?
Even if you name 1 or 2.
You see, if one of them I say is just the religious institutions.
Okay.
All right? Because all of us belong to, and we participate in religious, we go to church, we go to mosques, we go to temples, the majority of Kenyans.
Can you pause there? You have an issue, not an issue, but you've raised your brows, I think, when it comes to interreligion. How come?
No, just, okay, we have 2 interreligious council members, nominating 2 people to the IEBC.
Yeah.
I just want to know the why. This mixture of state and church, state and mosque, state and...
I think because they have such influence.
It's actually not
it's influence. You're worried about that it's still co-opted.
It is co-opted because the way the church especially, and to some extent even the Muslim Council of Kenya, etc., mix and, and hobnob with our political class is a bit worrying. It's not that it doesn't happen anywhere else, but there's a level to which we take it that makes me feel like there is no... Even as you're doing this nomination, you will not be doing it independently because, one, you have no horse in the game. There is no religious leader standing for president, right? So what you're looking for, and you shouldn't, I agree, but also that leaves you open to someone whispering in your ear and saying, hey, can we go this way? It's in your best interest.
Now, please remember, Mariam, that we are talking in a situation where the citizen is in the room, okay? If the citizen is in the room, the citizens, we cannot discount the fact that, for example, just religious organizations and religious leaders play a big role in what we do, right? Religious organizations, one could argue, they, because of, that's why we see politicians coming to church all the time. That's why, the voice of the religious organizations is strong. When the religious organizations started speaking about the government was like, okay.
When they returned money, when they said, we don't want your gifts.
Even the statement by the Catholic bishops, then the NCCK, then the imams, the government was like, okay, Nisawa, you're saying we're not listening to people. So they are a representative of the people. If we're in the room, then we also now determine, so who are we putting in through our religious council?
So you've said religious leaders?
The others, like now I can see the professional bodies, only 2 of them. I don't understand why LSK and ISPAC.
I think
but we can say it's for the fact that you want to have this kind of competence in the commission.
Right.
So we can look at that and say, so what else? Do we have a body of this? My idea is out of how many are we in total? 7?
9.
9? And then it's 5, so we have 4.
Only 1 should represent political interest, direct political interest. The other 8 should be us. Let this one just represent direct political interest because, okay, they're coming and giving perspective of, but we should be the ones. We should have a way of saying we trust this system because we are the ones who selected the IEBC commissioners.
Okay.
In this case, it's politicians who are by majority selecting the IEBC commissioners. But we can still hold them to account by getting into the room and doing the thing I'm saying. Citizen vigilance, let's look. So who has applied? Who has been shortlisted? How is the interview being conducted? They'll conduct it publicly. All right? Who has been shortlisted? Why?
I like that idea, especially of the public vetting. I just want to read a small excerpt again from the same article. A recruitment of IEBC has been lengthy and controversial since some commissioners resigned after the 2022 elections. The terms of Chairperson Wafula Chebukati and Commissioners Abdi Gulie and Boyamolu expired in January 2023, and 3 others resigned, and 1 was dismissed. So the lack of commissioners has hampered IEBC operations. It could not review constituency boundaries or hold by-elections in 3 constituencies and several wards across the country. So we're going back to why we are insisting on citizen vigilance. If a lot of these are not able to be carried out, we don't have the by-elections, we don't have the review of the constituency boundaries in a place and in a time when population is ballooning beyond the boundaries where they currently sit. This, ladies and gentlemen, is how the cookie crumbles. This is how it happens. I keep going back to, it's how the foundation is laid. It's how our absence or lack of interrogation, and again, props to Kenyans. I really feel like we're coming into a great era where we're saying we're questioning everything. But we have to be able to question everything with a fine-tooth comb, and we have to be able to sustain that momentum, because my heart is already kind of sinking, and I know that's not a great thing to say when we have this platform, looking at what I think could happen with the formation of the IEBC, right, and what other issues are going to be thrown into the mix as we head towards 2027. Forget that, 2026. That's where we're already at. So we're saying citizen vigilance, and I like how somebody on YouTube put it. He just said one sentence, but it pretty much captured what it is we're saying. Tibbs Muge, citizens need to volunteer as the eyes. Which is what citizens need, right? Volunteer as the eyes. But Tibbs has also come back to say, you don't need IEBC though. Just saying.
I mean, we do. That's unfortunate thing. And then we are.
I guess what he's saying is you don't have to have a commission. We can think of other ways in which we manage. You know, the IEBC is our electoral management body. We can have another way of having an EBC, EBM, election management, EMB, the election management body, if without necessarily calling it a commission and having 7 people.
That's another idea.
There are countries that just use judges.
Is it entrenched in the constitution?
In India, they don't have an IEBC.
Do we start going back then, to the constitution, to, what is in law as far as how we conduct our elections? Then my next question would be, we've talked about our ideal scenario, what we would love to see, but what we have right now is this: 2 PSC nominees, 3 from political parties, 1 from the LSK, 1 from ISPAC, 2 from the Interreligious Council. That's what we have. How do we entrench our interests here?
We start now by this vigilance. We know that there's going to be nominations, that by Friday 15th, people would have, been shortlisted, and hopefully now we'll begin to understand who these people are. We know what their handles are. We try to flood them with, these are our interests. Please, when you're going in there, please understand that we're keeping an eye. I think that's where we have to work with what we have.
Right.
And once we get those people, we can follow through them. I don't know at what liberty they'll be able to speak, but vigilance starts with, we have to work with what we have. To his point, eventually we need to review that and say, do we need this? Do we need it as a commission? Is there another way, which is better resourced or better management of resources and a better use of resources, better use of our integrity and integration of our integrity, but we work with what we have. And what we have right now is a window. People might not see it as much of one, but we will have these names. We will know who these commissioners are. How are we as the public being vigilant to really checking the pulse on these commissioners and saying, we're keeping an eye on you. Engage us. Let us interrogate some things. Listen to us. Hear us out. When you're going in there, you're carrying our voices.
I was doing the math, sorry, Janet, when you were speaking. I was like, if we get 4, okay, that's good. Like if for example, an LSK nominee for me wouldn't be much of a red flag unless, the LSK goes completely left field. ISPAC as well is a very respected body. I wouldn't be too worried about that. Even from the Interreligious Council, I'm willing to extend that faith, right? But still on the short, I've got the short end of the stick with 5 others belonging to political parties. So vigilantism
that's in this just the selection panel, and their job is just they're basically the interview panel. Right. So what we're basically saying is, whoever is on that interview panel, number one, do they meet the threshold in terms of just basic qualifications? They do. Are they there legally? Yes, they are. Okay. Do we know whether there's a hand that's controlling them? We don't know. But just so that we are sure that there's no external control of this process, we have to be vigilant. Just so that we are sure that the people that come into that interview room are going to go through a fair process, and that the outcome of this process is going to be one that brings out the best Kenyans who have said, I want to be a commissioner of IEBC and I mean well for this country. To make sure that that happens, we have to be vigilant. We have to keep our eyes open. What are we seeing? Once that commission is in office, we continue being vigilant. Sasa nyinyi Parliament, how much budget are you giving to this commission? How much, of arm's length operation is the political class dealing with the IEBC? How much interference are you trying to have with the IEBC? All those things, we have to remain vigilant. And that vigilance is what will land us with an IEBC that then does the job as it does. I'd like to remind us that, by the way, we usually don't have an issue with the IEBC. It's not us who have an issue with the IEBC. The people who have an issue with the IEBC are Ruto, Raila, Uhuru, Kalonzo, Musalia, Matakarua, those presidential candidates.
There's that epic picture of Raila Odinga with the files, the stacks of files and
those
everything.
Are the people who have a problem with the IEBC. But let me demonstrate. Okay. Can I tell you why?
Okay.
On an election day, we have how many elections? 6 elections. Okay? Right, again, notebook. Those 6 elections are presidential elections.
Right.
Yeah. That is one across the country. We have MPs. 290 constituencies are electing MPs. So 290 plus 1, endelea kuhesabu.
Oh, you're counting it like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Because everywhere, that is an election.
So every constituency, separate election? Okay, presidential election moja?
Yes.
Okay.
Then we have 47 counties electing woman reps.
Right.
Plus 47. Then we have 47 counties electing senators.
Right.
47. We have 47 counties electing governors. 47.
Yeah.
We have 1,500 wards, each electing an MCA.
Right.
In total, if you add all this, we have about 1,800 elections that take place. Out of 1,800 elections at the end of an election, last election, 2022, there were less than 100 petitions that were filed in court.
Oh.
So what is the trust of
the trust
election
level with the IEBC? From a public perspective,
yes.
Is 100 out of 1,800 a good number? To say
and
that?
Out of that, less than 100, less than 10 were actually upheld in court.
Okay. Now that's the number
when you
to
do
work
that
with.
math, that's how. I know we need to wind up soon. Because I love quotes. We talked about my people perish for lack of knowledge. It is in the book of Hosea, chapter 4, verse 6. And it's the 20th book in the Bible. Right? Just so you know, my people perish for lack of knowledge. Words that we throw around, but when you really dig deep, says a lot about what it is that we're dealing with.
We keep our eyes
eye on the prize, guys.
Eye on the prize.
Eye on the. Let me go, Usa. And pray about my IEBC phobia.
Yeah, I think it is something to pray about.
Yeah.
Something to also action is the vigilance that we've all spoken about here.
100%.
And then to figure out other ways to entrench our interests. I'm still like, how can I be more represented now that the IEBC selection panel looks like this? Now that the commission will probably look like this? How do I get my interests in there? But it's one conversation at a time.
And I think we'll probe that,
right?
Over the coming weeks. I think we can try have that conversation, right here. How do we get the people's voices and interests represented in this commission? But yeah, gosh, this was such an important conversation. Vigilance, citizen vigilance. It is us, nobody else.
No one is coming to save you.
Yeah.
Okay. Say bye, guys.
It doesn't end here. The conversations continue. So we've been live streaming, and these conversations are still available online. Even on your favorite podcast, you'll find us. Just keep engaging wherever you are, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, everywhere. One conversation at a time, 4 conversations done, very many more to come. Thank you for tuning in today. See you tomorrow.